Testing one. Hello. Testing one, two, three. Testing. Testing one, two, three. Testing one, two, three. Testing. Testing one, two, three. Testing. Come on in, everyone. Come on in because we are here to talk about married. Come on in, everyone. Come on in because we are here to talk about Married at First Sight. We are on season 19, episode 10, y'all. And let me tell you something. These folks is wearing me out. They are wearing me out, everyone. I mean to tell you, we got a lot of, what do I want to call it? Emotionally underdeveloped people this season. And let me tell you, the lack of emotional development is actually what's causing a lot of these things between the couples. Jaylen is sliding down the wall. She's sliding down the wall. Um, did she just have a meltdown and start crying and saying, I am community. I am community. Why can't you tell me I'm community? Why can't you tell me I know how to build community? I know how to build community. I need you to see me. She had a full on meltdown, crying, asking Josh to acknowledge, validate her that she is the princess of building community because she does it every day with her Peloton spin class. First of all, listen, maybe I say it too much. When people are missing each other, instead of just reiterating your own point over and over again, really what you need to switch to if you really want to improve your communication and your relationships is to go into question mode. When you're missing someone and you don't understand what they're saying and you feel as if they're on a whole different page than you, instead of just reiterating the page you're on, the first thing you should do is ask questions about their page. Because this whole screaming and yelling match with Josh and Jaylen over community drove me up the wall. And the tears of someone crying over the fact that you would not or he did not acknowledge soon enough that she is community and she knows how to build community and she's the princess of community. And remember, he had to say those exact words. She said, I need you to say these exact words before she would stop crying. And when he finally said the exact word, she said, oh, okay, thank you. I feel better now. That's a tantrum. That is a tantrum when a baby yells and screams and cries to get their way. And the minute you hand them the lollipop, the tears go away. Really, what it is, it's emotional manipulation. I know a lot of y'all don't want to see what Jaylen is doing, but this princess thing of Jaylen is starting to get in the way. And the problem that they're having is their upbringing. Jaylen, you can see with her mother, they're a lot alike. They're princesses. They want to be catered to. They want to be understood. The only reason Chad and Belinda aren't having any problems is because Chad is not challenging Belinda. He's basically giving her everything she wants. He's basically being the perfect guy. That's what Josh was trying to be in the beginning too, the perfect guy. Because in order to be with Jaylen or Belinda, you've got to be the perfect guy. Once you start being someone different, even possibly yourself, they don't know how to be with you when it's outside of themselves. I know a lot of people want to tell me in my comments, she jumped out of the plane for Josh. No, she didn't. No, she didn't. Remember, Jaylen was the one that told Josh that jumping out of a plane was on her bucket list and something she wanted to do. Now, maybe she did it sooner than she thought she was going to be doing it, but that doesn't mean she did it completely for Josh. So I'm not buying that. And here, first of all, If I'm going to help a Jaylen, y'all know I do private coaching. If Jaylen comes to me and says, "Hey, Auntie Deborah, I want to have a session with you because I just had a fight with my husband." First of all, the first fight we had was surrounding Burning Man. Really, Burning Man and this community thing is really one big argument. First of all, what like I said before, walking in fear. A lot of people say Burning Man is full of drugs. Burning Man is full of sex. Burning Man is full of this, right? Some people that have never even been to Burning Man, they read it on the internet. They saw it on the news. Regardless of whether there's drugs and sex at Burning Man, because there's drugs and sex. Listen, I'm in LA. I could walk to a street and see sex and drugs on the street. So this idea that everything is going to be controlled by fear. What? Are we afraid that someone's going to shove drugs down your throat? Are we afraid that you're going to be physically attacked? What about the inquisitiveness to wonder, what is it about Burning Man that Josh loves so much? Because until you understand that about him, you yelling and screaming, talking about you build communities. You're the princess of building communities. You do it every day with your friends and your family. Look, I did it with my mom, bringing her here into this community of Married at First Sight. So now she's met this man, Chad. What you are missing in all of this is that you are assuming that his definition, Josh's definition of community, is the same as yours. And I don't believe it is. And that doesn't mean that either of you are wrong. What it means is you're missing each other because you're so busy trying to shove down another person's throat your definitions. First of all, Jaylen, what you build are social communities. You build social communities with your spin class, with your talking. You're highly, highly verbal. Josh is not verbal. Remember, Jaylen, when you were trying to get him to write that letter? Remember, Jaylen, when you were trying to get him to say those vows and he told you it took him 4 days to write it? Did you ever consider that Josh has keeps saying over again, I'm an introvert. I'm not verbal. It takes me longer to do these things. She got on him then because she could spit it out real fast within 10 minutes. He says it takes me 4 days. She turned that whole thing to be about her. How can a person tell you about themselves when you make whatever their situation is about you? She turned his inability to write vows in 30 minutes to be about he doesn't love her. Now, here we are at Burning Man, right? And what she's wondering is, now the fact that you want to go to Burning Man, why wouldn't you want to stay home with me? I'm your new family. I'm your new community. Why do you need to go to Burning Man? So now Josh's love of Burning Man is also about a rejection of her. Goodness. First of all, let me give you a little tip, Jaylen, as a wife. And this is a wife move. Here's the tip. The last thing you want to do is tell your husband what to do, because if you tell a man what to do, typically he will do the opposite just to sometimes not allow you to be the boss of it. Men don't want to be henpecked. Men don't want to run around and be told what to do. Now, is it right? Is it wrong? That's not what I'm here to discuss. What I'm here to discuss is to teach you how to get along in your marriage. Sometimes when men want to go in a direction, such as going to Burning Man, what you do is before he leaves, Jaylen, you sex him up real good, real good. Then when he leaves and he goes to Burning Man for a long 7 days, you know what he's going to be thinking about? You. And I'm going to guarantee you, Jaylen, that if you don't go to Burning Man with him and he goes there for 7 days thinking about you, that'll be the last time he goes. You know why? Because he would have missed you, right? But when you tell a man you can't go, you can't do that, sometimes it makes him want to do it more. What you want is you want the choice to be his. You want him to choose you. You don't want to force him to choose you. You want him to come to you. Women need to learn how to use their power, which is their lure, to lure men unto them, not make and tell the man to come to them. This is part of the problem. We got a lot of women who are bossing people around on this show, and they're not actually knowing how to pull the man towards them. The minute she lets Jaylen or Josh go to Burning Man without her, and he's out there for 7 days, and he's missing being in the bed with her, snuggling with her. He's missing all that. He will not go next year, I guarantee you. And probably what he'll do, Jaylen, is he'll tell his friends, man, I can't go this year, and he'll make up a lie. That's right, a lie, Jaylen. Remember the person you didn't want, the liar? Well, get ready for him because he's going to lie to his friends and he's going to say something like, I can't go because I got to help my wife, even though he ain't helping you with nothing. Even though you told him he could go, he's going to use you as an excuse. That's just a little tip for free. That's a real free tip right there for you, Jaylen. But let me get back to where they're really missing each other. Because what Jaylen is talking about in building a community is she's talking about a social community. Josh is actually talking about a physical community, y'all. Please, let's look at who Josh is. Josh has told us he grew up basically walking around the town. He didn't play organized sports. He had to play things that he built with his hands. He played stickball. You know, he didn't grow up with organized sports with the best bats that Jaylen might have grown up with because her father was a baseball player. And when you think about Burning Man, I know a lot of people are thinking about the sex and the drugs, but you hear Josh talking about community. I think what he's talking about, and I don't know for sure because I would have to ask him the questions, he's talking about building community physically, Jaylen. You're talking about a social community verbal. He's talking about it's the closest thing I have to building a community physically because that's what Burning Man is a lot about. It's about sustaining yourself in the desert on the wild. You're in the desert, but you're only an hour and a half outside of Reno. So people talking about you can't leave Burning Man, that's not true. It's not a prison. Okay, you're an hour and a half to the next town. That's easy to get to. You got cars, you can leave. They're not chaining you to Burning Man. But what Josh is talking about is what a lot of people who camp like to do. My family's a camper. We camp. Now, do we camp on the ground? No. We got nice RVs, okay? But what he's talking about in building a community amongst campers, it is true. Because when you are camping, when you're at a campground, it is like a community. You meet people you've never met before, but you help each other. My family, we help other people set up their campgrounds, set up their RVs. Hey, do you need a charge? Do you need a battery? Hey, I forgot a wrench. I forgot that. That's what you do. You walk around to different camps and you meet people, black, white, young, old. That's what camping is about. It's about building community. And this man is a roofer. Okay. So, of course, he wants to do things with his hands. But Jaylen, she's a talker. She talks about building communities with her mouth. But the problem is she didn't ask this man questions. And like I said, what he said to her was, listen, I'm struggling a little bit trying to figure out how we'll build community outside of Burning Man. He came to her expressing something he didn't know, didn't understand. And instead of her helping to figure it out, what Jaylen said to him was, don't worry about it. He says, wait a minute, this is important to me, and I'm struggling to figure out how will it look outside of this. At least he was coming and saying, okay, I'm ready to imagine building community, Jaylen, without Burning Man, so I'm coming to you. And when he opens up the question about, I'm wondering what it will look like, Jaylen says, don't worry about it. Well, what do you mean, don't worry about it? I need to know what it's going to look like. And she says, I am community. What do you mean? I do this every single day. You don't know me yet? I need you to know me. And he's like, well, I've never really seen you build community. What? Now I'm offended. Why are you offended, Jaylen? Why are you? See, this goes back to Jaylen's own insecurities. You remember Jaylen's whole backstory is that she was insecure about not having a degree. And I think what she was really talking about was she doesn't want to be the dumb girl in the group because somehow or another she's associating a degree with being smart and intelligent. And that's not what it means. But I think she thinks that. That's why she has insecurities around it. So now when Josh says, I don't know if you can do it, she's offended because what she's believing is, you don't believe in my ability. No, what he's saying is, Jaylen, that community to me is a physical community in which we build tents, We survived with each other. We leaned on each other, right? We worked together. And Jaylen said, well, this is what I know how to do. And he said, you may know how to do it, but I've never seen it. So because I've never seen it, right now I'm a little unsure about it. And instead of her comforting him, instead of her actually saying, I get what you're saying, she made it all about herself and how somehow or another he was offending her. This is going to be a real big problem because I think what Jaylen is, she's very highly verbal and she's not getting the points about Josh that makes him an introvert, right? And what he's saying is, I'm not verbal, Jaylen. I'm hands on. The way that I like to show love to people is I'm a doer. I do things. Look at all the things he's done for you, Jaylen. Okay, what I want to ask Jaylen is, what has Jaylen done for Josh, right? If you look at their love languages, Josh is a doer. That's how he's built his company. He's a roofer. Jaylen is a talker. So she might have talked and said nice things to Josh, but what has she done? And listen, let me tell you something. If she's not careful, this will drive a wedge. Because if Josh does not feel appreciated, he does not feel understood, he will turn to that ex-girlfriend who may be if she's not careful, it will continue for both of them to build a wedge between them. And here's the thing, if Josh is the introvert and Josh is the person who is not very verbal, he's going to have to get better at that. Yes. But if Jaylen says she is the superior one in being verbal and being communicative, that would mean that she's going to have to carry more of the load in the beginning. So when I look at the failure of this coming together and understanding, typically I would say it's 50-50. Both people need to do work. They should. But when Jaylen is sitting here screaming and yelling and crying, talking about she's so good at building a community, but yet she can't even bridge this one communication between her and her husband, then that's a problem. You cannot call yourself the princess of building communities. And this community right here, where we are, me and you, the beginning of a community, you can't even find a way to build us. No, no, no. That would mean you're not as good at it as you think you are, Jaylen. Jaylen, what you're good at is telling people what you want, throwing tantrums until you get it. That's what you're good at. And this is what I was worried about with Jaylen early on. I said that Jaylen was showing signs that she could possibly try to run over Josh. And I'm starting to see it. I'm starting to see it right here. And I'm not liking it one bit. She's over here crying because she's so happy her mother is married to a yes man. That's what she thinks. She thinks her mama is married to a yes man. But what she better remember is Chad has been married 4 times. And let me tell you, if he's been married 4 times, he ain't no damn yes man. He's not a yes. He's been divorced 4 times. He's not a yes man. He may be a yes man right now, but he just told you he's used to barking orders. I'm not saying he's going to flip, but what I'm saying is stop believing, Jaylen and Belinda, that men are supposed to do everything you want to do, be everything you want to be, and you don't have to put in any effort whatsoever to learn that person. Jaylen needs to develop a more inquisitive personality. She needs to ask questions instead of stomping her feet, crying, and banging on the table, making other people completely understand her. I didn't like it. I didn't like it one bit. But when we come back, I'm going to play my introduction video. And when we come back, we are going to talk about another emotionally undeveloped couple, which is going to be Britney and Will. See you in a minute. Well, we are back, y'all. We are back. And before we start talking about Britney and Will, we got a break from Rhonda and Pat this episode. Well, we thought we got a break. We thought we got a break until we heard Rhonda tell another story in which she felt she was the victim. But once again, I'm like, you weren't the victim. I tell you, Rhonda know how to turn the story around. So first of all, Rhonda and Pat couldn't make the retreat, which I know Pat really wanted to go to the retreat. But Rhonda said, no, we got a family reunion, a family day. Now, I don't want to speculate whether or not this family day could have been postponed. It doesn't matter whether it could be postponed for filming or not, because Rhonda wasn't going to do it anyway, because this is another opportunity for Pat to get to see her, for her to tell more stories, to see her life, her kids, her family. Once again, Rhonda wanted Pat to make the sacrifice, not for her to go to the retreat for Married at First Sight, but to go to her family reunion. But I don't know if this get together with the family could have been postponed, because they didn't go nowhere. All they did was go to Rhonda's house. So there weren't no tickets bought. There weren't no reservations made. It was really just getting some food at her house. But hey, I'm not going to speculate. I'm going to let that one go, Rhonda. But to be honest with you, I think it was another selfish move. Now, even in this, Rhonda ain't even on our screen long, but she gets to tell us a bad story once again, as she says, about Pat making it about himself. And what she said was they were in the store, and Pat tells her that he had bought some concert tickets. And unfortunately, the day that he bought the tickets for was a day in which she already had something planned. And so she wasn't going to be able to make it. Okay. So she then says she goes on a whole lecture, once again, lecturing him about how they need to share calendars, the importance of it, why it was wrong what he did, how he should never do it again, basically chastising him, lecturing him. And then what she says is, in the middle of her lecturing him, he changes the subject and goes and talks to someone else in the store about gloves, and she was offended. She was offended. And so once again, she doesn't get it. She doesn't get it. She says that she doesn't get the fact that in his abandoning her once again, like I said, this is what's going to look like in her life all the time. It's going to look like abandonment. It's going to look like people walking away from you. It's going to look like people not wanting to talk to you because they get tired of your behavior, and they're not going to confront you all the time. They don't want to fuss and argue with you. They're just going to abandon you. And that's what I said about that first husband back in the day when she said he just stopped working. That was a form of abandonment. That man, if that story is true, Rhonda, that all of a sudden you married a man, then next thing you know, he didn't want to work anymore. That's a form of financial abandonment. He abandoned you. That is his way of walking away from you, but actually still physically being there, but mentally checked out. And when Pat goes off to another side of the store and talks to a man about gloves, that's another form of abandonment. But she doesn't get it. She really believes she could have sat there and lectured him about this calendar thing over and over again. But I was glad that I got a reprieve from her for a minute off this screen. But even when she came up, once again, she said she was the victim because he walked off. But yet she was the perpetrator, because once again, she was chastising him and also correcting him about how don't you ever make no appointments, buy me tickets to anything without checking with my calendar. I'm so done with Miss Rhonda. I am really done with Miss Rhonda. But before we get to Will and Britney, we got to talk about Derek and Megan. I'm telling y'all, they are a lot alike, a lot alike. And this whole prankster thing that they played, they were two peas in a pod. They loved it. Derek said he's a middle child. I don't want to get on no middle children, but it is really, really, really adding it up. And the way that Derek sort of operates, he needs a Megan. I'm starting to believe he needs a Megan, because if you do not put some boundaries around Derek, I believe he could run all over you. I do. I said it before. I started to see it with Derek. He is not a shrinking violet. He is not fragile. And there was a lot of times when Megan said I had to put some boundaries around Derek when he was in my plate eating my food. I had to put some boundaries around him. But they both a handful. Megan was getting a little bit mad after she pranked everybody, and then they threw the water balloons on her. And she said, now I got to go wash my hair. She was a little testy, but then she came back and says, ooh, yeah, I washed my hair now and I look real good. I look real good. These two, that house that they're building together, that life they're building together, it could get explosive. If they don't learn how to control each other's stubbornness that they both got, that house, y'all, it could get explosive, really explosive. But before we leave, I gotta go and we gotta talk about um, the train wreck of Will and Britney. At this point, um, they need to say no to each other because they actually need to do a lot of work individually before they're in a relationship. We are really starting to see once again what we saw in episode 1 with Will. And what's going on with Will is that he doesn't have the ability to move to a place of common ground. I keep going back to that moment with those parents where he wasn't able to find common ground with the parents. And what you're starting to find here is the same thing with Britney. He's not able to find common ground. Now, is Britney irritating? She is. She's very irritating because her fragility, once again, fragile, Jaylen, fragile. When you operate out of fear, it really interrupts you getting to know what's really going on with the other person because you're so in protection mode. You're so busy protecting yourself, is what I said about Jaylen. She couldn't even ask, Jaylen couldn't even ask Josh questions because she was so busy protecting her own sense of what she felt she was in context of what community was. She didn't have a chance to even ask him what was community to him. What were the aspects that created a nice community? Maybe she would have got to the fact of building, sharing, growing, not talking over a glass of wine. It's not the same thing. And Will doesn't really have the ability to find the common ground with Britney. And Britney is too busy protecting her own insecurities that it's almost like she's like Jaylen. She's sitting there, she's crying, she's demanding it, right? And Will does need to give her more, but the constant give me this, give me that, give me this, give me this, really what it does is it pushes a person further away. When you don't take more time to sort of try to find that common ground and you just demand what you want, it actually creates more separation between the two of you. Um, but at this point, Will is what I thought he was. He's an antagonist. And he likes to ask those questions to be sort of, what do we call it, devil's advocate. You know, he said he was a business management major. He works in IT consultant. Maybe what part of his job is when he comes into a company and he's doing consulting, he's there to point out the gaps. He's there to point out what's missing so he can inform the customer, the client, what they need to do because of what's missing. But I wonder if Will is just a person who points out issues, points out errors, points out gaps, but he himself doesn't know how to provide solutions to fill those gaps. Because if he's a really good consultant, Will, the first part of consulting is identifying issues, identifying gaps, identifying areas of opportunity. But after that, you have to be willing to offer solutions. Is Will just a person that knows how to point out issues but not offer solutions? Because when he tells Britney, yeah, could we be closer? Sure. He's pointing out the gap. Are there gaps in every situation? Sure, there are. But if you're going to be a person that points out gaps, you need to be a person that also offers solutions. So, in him pointing out gaps, he needs to come back and offer a solution, and he doesn't do that. So, he leaves Britney hanging out there all by herself, flailing in the wing, and all she does is get more insecure and more insecure. But Will likes that position, and I'm not for sure why. Will likes other people to be on edge. He doesn't look to comfort other people. And part of me thinks that this is the part that he enjoys. There's a part of me that Will sees the struggle of Britney. But even when he says he doesn't want to see her struggle that way, he continually sits on the sideline and doesn't offer her a rope to come into the shore. He sees her out there in the water, drowning, sinking. And even though I could say to Britney, hey, Britney, you're drowning because you shouldn't have gotten in the water because you don't know how to swim. You should have worn a life vest. I can say all that. But to see a person drowning the way that Britney is and still not offer them a rope, a life vest, to me points to a sort of meanness. And it's what I saw with the parents from the very beginning, that there was a reluctance, a stubbornness to see people trying to connect to you, see them trying, just like those parents were. How about dominoes? How about spades? They kept trying to come up with ways to connect with Will. And all along the way, all Will did was say, no, 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 no. He never offered a suggestion. This is not going to work, is what I said from the very beginning. I was hoping that these two could find their way back to each other, but I don't think so. I think that these personality traits are so entrenched in these two. One, Will, being stubborn, reluctant, and antagonist, and unwilling to save a person, to help a person, even though that person is struggling to connect with him, and him not wanting to step up and do it. I think his inability to do it, and I think it's more than inability, I think it's an unwillingness to do it. I know Brittany is internalizing it and she's acting as if it's all about her, which is the part I don't like about Brittany, that she turns everything to be about her. The point of the matter is, Brittany, if you were sitting with me and I were doing a personal counseling session with you, I would tell you it has nothing to do with you. This is Will. He was this way before he met you. He is this way now. It has nothing to do with who you are. Do you have your own issues? Yes. And we can talk about that. But in the context of how Will is acting, it actually doesn't have to do with Brittany. This is who Will is. He's done it with too many other people. Everyone there at the retreat with you is telling you they see the same thing, that Will even does it with them. So it can't be about you because he did it with your mom and daddy. He did it with the other people here on the retreat. He's doing it with you. And as long as you keep saying it's about you, it's about you, it's about what you're not doing, who you aren't, and you're tying whatever type of growth you need to him, that's not what you ought to do. You ought to grow, Brittany, but it shouldn't be tied to trying to please Will, because Will has his own issues. This is not going to work. These two really do not need to say yes on decision day. They need to go their separate ways, and they need to learn to work on these issues outside of where they are. Um, it was really, 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 really sad to see. But anyway, that's all I got now, y'all. I guess we will be back to talk about the next episodes when they come back. See you soon. Bye.